Hi, this is Mike from Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and on today's video we'll be taking a look at some of Antec's new holographic looking Infinity fans, which are RGB, comes with a little fan kit, but are they worth the money or do they deserve the final snap? Keep watching to find out more. Okay, on today's video we'll be taking a look at Antec's Infinity fans. These are a relatively new fan set on the market. Got these from Amazon.co.uk by means of Ugly Bob. Thanks very much, Ugly Bob, for sending them to us for review. And actually, when we're done with these, when we finish the review, we are going to be giving these away to one of you lucky viewers. So if you want to be in that, then head over to our Discord and you can find out more information, or we'll put some info in the description below. Also, you can find out more information from our Saturday night live stream. Obviously, depending on what time you're watching the stream, then the giveaway may have already ended. But anyway, enough of that, let's get on to the actual unboxing, see what they're like, see if they're actually any good, and see if they're worth your money. Now, talking of money, these at the moment retail for $29.99 on Amazon.co.uk. There also is a weirdly other similarly priced SKU, or unit of cost, which is $39.99, which basically is for the same pack. So obviously, if you're going to buy them, buy the cheaper one. Makes sense. Don't make the mistake I did. Anyway, moving on from that, there is also the option to buy these in a single form, so you can buy the individual fans. These cost $15.99, which at that kind of price point makes me a little bit hesitant to recommend them at the moment, but certainly we'll take a look, go through the unboxing, see what they're like and see if it's worth it. If you do need more than 3 fans, the options at the moment, as it seems, realistically, it's kind of get the 3-pack or 2 3-packs or 3 3-packs if you need a ton of fans. There are some downsides to that, which we'll come across a little bit later, but let's get into it and see what we actually get. So looking at the accessories box, so in the accessories box, we get our RGB controller box and fan hub, which we'll take a look at closer in a minute. You also get a adapter cable, so if you're not using the standard 5-volt addressable RGB with 3 pins, then you can use this as an adapter for certain older gigabyte boards. That seems to be most common what those are for. Also in the packaging there is this cable which is for your fans and also the header on your motherboard. So that's really nice, just one single cable with a specific connection on that end which plugs into the hub itself, and the other splits into 2. So you've got your 3-pin addressable RGB header, 5 volts, and also you've got your 4-pin PWM header. So essentially what this is going to do is going to pass through the PWM signal from your motherboard to all of the fans connected to the hub. Pretty straightforward. The hub itself has a few kind of downsides in my personal opinion. There is only option to connect up 5 fans to this, so 5 fans and 5 RGB devices. So if you're going for a multi-pack of this, then you're going to have to use both controllers and daisy chain them. Would have really loved to have seen 6 connections on here. A lot of cases these days, especially if you put in a load of RGB in, it's a very strong possibility you'll have 3 fans up front, possibly 2 in the top and 1 as exhaust. So with an option for only 5 fans, that is going to limit your setup slightly. So possibly 1 on the rear, 1 in the top, leaving a blank space where your radiator would normally be, and then 3 in the front, or basically combinations thereof. Another thing which they have kind of omitted from this is some kind of adhesive strip to actually attach this to the back of your PC. So you're left to your own devices there, but a simple piece of Velcro or double-sided 3M tape will be absolutely fine. Or do what most people do, and that is when it's all connected, just stuff it into one of the hard drive bays. Looking around the actual device itself, so on one side you've got all of your fan headers, so there's 5 of them there, again all of them 4-pin PWM. Next side round is the SATA connection, so this is for your main power. So take a SATA connector from your power supply, plug it into here, and this will power all of the RGB and all of the fans, so you don't have to worry about excess draw on your motherboard. On the other side we've got the addressable RGB point, so you can plug in the 3 fans which are included obviously into the 3 ports. If you wanted to, you could also plug in some addressable RGB strips into those additional ports, or if you wanted to, you could buy additional fans to plug in if you wanted. And back to this end is our 4-pin connector for the splitter, and also the 2-pin for your reset switch. Or you can jimmy rig some other type of switch there if you wanted to, and then just have it at the back of your PC, or if you want to keep your reset button working as it normally would. If you're using the motherboard pass-through, you don't need to use this switch at all, so it's one or the other. You can have them both connected at the same time if you wanted to, but I think that'll just complicate matters. On the top section, there's actually some manual controls as well, so you've got an option for LED speed. So there's a little clicky button there, so you can change the speed of your addressable RGB LEDs, and also there is a mode button, which will take you through the different types of lighting function, and also the colors, etc. Sadly, there's no option on this particular device for any fan control. That would have been a nice addition. And that takes us on to the fans themselves. So as you can see in the kit, you get a 3-pack of these fans. They do come individually retail boxed, which is always nice to see. So as you can see, it's got the Infinity and addressable RGB logos on there. On the side again, Infinity ARGB, got the Antec logo on the top, and also on the back it goes into the specifications. So these are 120mm fans, again addressable RGB. They are PWM fans, 120 by 120 by 25mm depth. They are sleeve bearing with a addressable RGB LED type. The fan speed, which some of you may find important, top speed of 1500 RPMs, plus or minus a little bit, and the lowest rating is 200 RPM. So actually, at the lowest RPM, 200 is actually pretty good for fans like this. Normally, some of the cheaper fans on the market, they kind of go down to around about 600, maybe 500 RPM. Anything below that, they just cut out altogether. So it's nice to see fans with a very low rotational speed. The airflow on these is 58.2 CFM. Whether or not these will be suitable for radiators, I think that probably wouldn't be the case. These do appear to be more airflow orientated fans, especially at that lower RPM, but certainly you could try it, and I may well do that later in the video. We'll see how things go. Fan noise level, now that is one which always kind of I do get concerned about. It lists the fan noise level as 28.9 dBA. Now realistically, in this room as it stands at the moment, even with me being quiet, the ambient noise level is around about 30-32 dBA. So in theory, at top speed, these should be inaudible, which I very much doubt. The lifespan is rated at 20,000 hours, but we won't be testing that. And the rest of it is all voltage ratings, etc. But you do also get a 1-year guarantee, which if you're in the UK, that's pretty much a given. Looking at the actual fans themselves, so you do get your 4 screws for actually attaching them to your case. And there are the fans themselves. And as you can see, they're actually pretty nice looking design. And even just briefly spinning the fan blades like that, they do actually seem to be moving a lot of air. Not a particularly scientific test, I agree, but quite often when you do spin fans like this, you get an idea of if they're actually going to move any air at all. Looking at the blade design, it does look like there's a kind of a compromise between static pressure and airflow. So yeah, we'll see how well they do when they're inside of the case. So we should move on to what is actually the centerpiece of the fan, and quite literally it is. In the center there is a kind of like a PVC or plastic mirror effect, which is designed to give you that halo effect. So the front of the fan, when it's actually on, that kind of goes dark, and yeah, it just looks pretty cool, as you'll probably see from some B-roll already. The weird thing I have noticed about this already is the fact that the plastic bit does actually appear to be stuck on over the top of something else. So I think that's what gives you the halo effect, because there's a mirror beneath the mirror. So don't think to yourselves, all they've done is stuck a piece of mirror on the front. It isn't quite as simple as that. The mirror is actually slightly opaque, so you can see what is behind, which also happens to be a mirror. So that gives you that infinity mirror effect. Not quite as simple an illusion as you'd expect, but it certainly does work very well. And when these are illuminated, which I've already seen on a previous video, they do look particularly nice. And actually at certain angles, you can actually see kind of down through the actual front kind of semi-opaque mirror. It's almost like the mirror film that you used to have years ago on cars for theft prevention, that kind of stuff. Anyway, I digress. So the fans have got 4 rubber pads in each corner, and that is actually front and back, which is nice to see. And the cabling itself, as you'd expect, because of they are PWM and addressable RGB, you've got 2 cables on there, 4-pin PWM, and also the 5-volt addressable RGB. And for those of you that are asking, no, they won't work as RGB fans. You do need to have the 5-volt header on your motherboard, or obviously use the included controller. Another thing of note, which seems to be happening more and more on fans these days, is the actual kind of the back plate. You've got this nice design on here, which kind of helps to create a better airflow and less turbulence, rather than having just straight arms come off of there. It's a very minute thing, but certainly it will help with noise reduction. One thing you would probably notice as well is the fact that the fans are actually completely solid on the sides. Now they're made of a pretty nice resin, so there's not a great deal of flex to them, which is always good. But unfortunately, depending on how you've got your system set up, if you've got them on a sideways angle like that, then you're not going to see any RGB apart from the bleed through from the top or the bottom. So if you're looking for something which can give you a lot of light, then you may want to look at ones which have got a clear or transparent surround. So that's enough waffling. Let's get these things set up on a little test bench on the desk here and see what they're actually like. Okay, so we've got our setup and we've got the fans connected into the hub, which is difficult for me to move at the moment because the fans actually are producing a considerable amount of air. Now it's probably coming through on the microphone. I've got a lav mic on, so the air is kind of blowing straight towards me. But actually these are at 1500 RPM, which is the full whack. And if I actually lift them up off the desk a little bit, this is going to hurt. Apart from the sound of the air moving, they are pretty quiet. I wasn't expecting that. In the flat position and in the vertical, yeah, I'm actually pleasantly surprised. Trying to stab myself with a blade, that can hurt at 1500 RPM. So it's doing really well, and as you can see, it's even moving the boxes. Quite happily will, yeah, you can tell they are moving a quite considerable amount of air. So very pleased there. And the actual RGB looks really, really nice. Now obviously in the studio with the lighting and the camera, due to rookie mistakes that I always make setting up the camera, they don't look as good as they do in real life. Now if we go through some of the patterns there, so you've got the usual things which go through, so you've got all the lighting styles you can select. Now if you are connecting this up to your motherboard's addressable RGB header, obviously you will only get what that header can put out in terms of lighting effects. So if you're connecting these up to a system and you're expecting exactly the same as this, and you're connected to your motherboard, you may not experience that. You may need to use the actual hub itself. But you can switch between the two. Press and hold the reset switch and it will switch between auto mode and the kind of controller mode, so you can go through and choose your own mode. So either way is absolutely fine. And there is a little bit of turbulence coming from these, so let's try and move them around a little bit and go through some of the other modes. So it's pretty much the usual stuff you'd expect. Pretty solid colours, which actually, yeah, do look quite nice. And then go back to kind of like the unicorn puke stuff. Yeah, it looks quite nice. Usual kind of stuff that you'd expect, to be honest with you. A lot of these addressable RGB fans do work in a very similar way. Going through colour cycles again. That's one of my favourites, the kind of Miami Vice neon-y type look. I do kind of like that. So if you press and hold the button, in theory, that should reset them back to the defaults or turn them off. So now that's in motherboard control mode. If there was a motherboard connected, it would then use whichever lighting style is appropriate. Press the button again and it goes back to the presets. Let's go back through. Yeah, so there's quite a lot of options here. You've got the fade in the various colours. And we're back to unicorn puke. Now again, it's very difficult for me to actually pick this up on the screen, but hopefully you can kind of see it a little bit. There is definitely a holographic effect. It is basically a mirror on the front, so you probably see again from some of the B-roll, you probably just see my ugly mug and the camera in front of it. But on some angles it does look very, very nice. Almost like some of the, I think it's NZXT, some of their early water coolers had that kind of effect actually on the pump head. So if you're looking and you've got a system like that and you want to match up, then these would be ideal. They do seem to move an extraordinary amount of air. And they're not overly noisy. Again, you would very rarely have your fans on full speed. So at full speed, they're not silent by any means, but they're not disgustingly loud, if that is even a way of describing it. I've had very, very loud fans which, when they're moving the air at top speed, they just sound awful and gives you that horrible kind of feeling. You're just like, oh, just turn them off. But these actually, yeah, seem okay. So I suppose this is where we start looking at pros and cons. So pros and cons. Pros, I would say, they look very nice. They're relatively quiet and they do move a considerable amount of air. And I think they're going to be, the static pressure there, there's quite a lot of static pressure. So I think they probably would be okay with radiators. I don't think they're really designed for that in mind, but certainly you could use that. I think they're a 0.92 H2O, as in water pressure, so I guess they're kind of in that range, so they're suitable either way. They're not static optimized, certainly, but they will get the job done either way, especially at the higher RPMs. Other pros, the wiring, obviously having separate PWM and addressable RGB connectors is fantastic. It means it's flexible, works with most systems. You can mix and match, so you don't have to have an Antec controller or an Antec motherboard or Antec case. You can move it around with various other systems which use the same kind of headers, which is most of them these days, I'm glad to say. The hub itself, I would have loved to have seen a remote control come with it, especially around about this price point. £30 seems like not a great deal, £10 per fan, yeah, we pay that all day long. To get the controller thrown in as well, which is probably worth another tenner. then yeah, it's reasonably good value for money. At $39.99, which they have the other SKU on for, which I guess is kind of how they've priced this, it sort of makes sense. The pros pretty much end there really. Price wise, yeah, okay, it's fine. Good quality. Antec stuff's been around a long time, and they are a little bit hit and miss with some of their products, but these certainly do seem to be okay. The cons, I would say for an RGB fan, ideally you want to have some light bleed through on the outsides, or at least in my opinion you do. Again, depending on what your case setup's going to be like. I would have liked to have seen a transparent frame around the fans themselves. Other things I'd like to have seen, again, remote control for the hub and an extra header. Just one more header for one fan and one RGB to give you the option for connecting 6 straight up. I think would have been fantastic. I think if you're using 6 of these in a kind of air-cooled chassis, having to have 2 hubs, it kind of puts you in Corsair territory where you have to keep on daisy chain and stuff, which then starts getting a bit complicated. Obviously this is considerably cheaper than Corsair, but it would have been nice to have seen just those extra ports on there. In some instances it might be better off actually to kind of get the fans separately if they become cheap enough, and get a separate hub, maybe like the GameMax one which we reviewed ages ago, which you can see up here. That's got 6 ports on it. Or perhaps go for something altogether different, like the up here fan set which we've got in the PC behind me. Similar quality fans, slightly less air pressure to them, but they do look quite nice, and you get 6 in a pack rather than 3, and you get the hub which can control up to 6 fans, and it's around about £40 to £45 at the moment. So for an extra £15 you essentially get double the capacity of kit. So there is that to it. Again, you can check out the review of those up here also. So I would say for the majority of people these are going to be absolutely fine. If you've got an Antec case, obviously yeah, get Antec fans to go with it. Whether or not I would spend £60 to get 2 packs to kit out a PC is debatable, but certainly I can't say that there's anything inherently wrong with them. All I would say is there are other alternatives which you would definitely be best off looking at first before you make a purchase. But as far as I'm concerned, airflow wise and the actual physical amount of air they move, yeah, these are ranking up there very highly, but it's whether or not that is going to be a primary concern to you, or whether you're just going for looks in a slightly cheaper build. So this has been the Antec Infinity Addressable RGB 3-pack. I've been Mike, this is Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To. And also, if you want to find out how to win this actual set, then don't forget to drop in on our Saturday live stream, or check out the description below. So I've been Mike, this is Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and hopefully we'll catch you in the very next video. Thanks for watching.